Welcome to the RTD Sports Podcast. We are on to episode 3. We got a fun show for you guys. We are talking World Cup and U.S. men's national team. We got a fun conversation with Zach and our managing editor, Paul Whelan. They break down all things World Cup and United States soccer, and really fun conversation with Paul. Before that, we'll get into the top RTD story of the weekend. Some high school commitments from the Class 4 state champions, Varina. And then we'll get into the top national stories that are trending on Monday as we look back on the weekend. So first, Zach, you were at Varina's commitment day, whatever you want to call it, on Friday. Tell us about it. It seems like there's quite a bit of interest in that among our readers.
Yeah, it was like a commitment triad with 3 guys announcing all together, which was very fun. And Caleb Weish, who is the 2025 All-Metro Player of the Year, is headed to East Tennessee State University. Raymond Hudson, who's a defensive end, who had a phenomenal edge rusher, linebacker hybrid, who had a phenomenal year for them last year, is going to Clemson. And then Sa Rex, who is a defensive back, who had 7 interceptions, 24 pass breakups for them last year, is going to UVA. And so I think it was the combination of, first of all, Caleb was the All-Metro Player of the Year, and so there's increased interest there. And that's a family with incredible athletic lineage in the area. His dad was an All-Metro basketball player. His older brother, KJ, was an All-Metro basketball player. And there's another Weish on the way, who's a younger player in the Varina system, who's by all accounts going to be really good too. And then obviously a UVA commitment with Sarex had some intrigue there. And it's 3 guys that, I kind of approached it from the standpoint of talking about them growing up playing Varina rec ball together, which is always fun when you've got kids who, were 7, 8 years old talking about, dreams of going to play college football together when they were playing rec ball. And then they're having this moment together with their friends, with their families, all gathered to celebrate them and announce simultaneously. That was very cool. There was 50 plus people packed into the Varina library. So that was very fun, and everyone was doing individual interviews with the guys. Hudson, Savannah, we talked about Hudson a couple of times. He really impressed both of us last year. He is going to slide into linebacker for Varina this year, they said, and kind of be a versatile chess piece that they put all over the place. He was a rotational edge rusher for them last year. But then after the graduation of Braylon Hood and Jalen Walker, who was their leading linebacker duo for the last couple of years, it sounds like Hudson is going to shift roles a little bit. But Marcus Lewis, their head coach, also said he's going to play all over the place for him. Caleb it is amazing in the amount of snaps that he plays. He was a defensive back for them too. And he said even going toward college, he wants to keep playing both ways as long as coaches will let him. So just an incredible work ethic and drive from him. And then Rex's recruitment really exploded after last season, in which he was a huge piece of what was a phenomenal Varina secondary. And the success that UVA had this past year under Tony Elliott getting to the ACC championship game played a factor for him in him wanting to go up to Charlottesville and commit to the Cavaliers. And it's also a Varina to UVA pipeline that's really strong. Blanda Wolf, their director of high school relations, is a former Varina assistant, was the 2005 Henrico County Public Schools Teacher of the Year. And Tim Harris, former UVA player, was a Varina assistant and former NFL defensive back, was big and saw Rex's development. And then Jay Sean Richardson, who's the 2-time All-Metro Defensive Player of the Year, going to UVA. Damari Carter, who was their top wideout this past year, also going to UVA. So some really cool connections there between the Blue Devils and Cavaliers, and that was a really fun scene at Varina on Friday.
Right on. And then, do you want to save Audrey from her training for a few moments so we can introduce the Richmond Times-Dispatch's newest newsroom intern?
Audrey, may we ask you to join the pod?
Yeah.
Audrey's incoming.
We're doing this live.
We're doing this live.
Yeah. This is proof that we're doing it live.
You guys stall for 30 seconds.
Yeah. We are recording at the office today, as you can see.
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. We have swapped out headphones. We welcome on Aubrey. I almost called you Aubrey again. Audrey. Audrey Pachuta from the University of Northwestern, and you'll be a senior,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
She'll
Just
be a
wrapped up my
senior
junior
in the.
year.
Gotcha. She just finished up her junior year, and she's joining us for 10 weeks starting today. And Audrey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I go to Northwestern, which is outside of Chicago, but I'm originally from outside of Philadelphia, so about 4 hours away. If you get lucky with traffic from Richmond, I did not get lucky when I was driving here yesterday.
Big if.
Um, but yeah, at Northwestern, I've spent a lot of time covering sports for our student paper. I was sports editor, where I covered a lot of Big Ten basketball, Big Ten football, but every other sport in between. We have a great lacrosse program there, a great softball program, field hockey. So, yeah, a lot of fun.
Were you part of the student paper when the Fitzgerald news broke?
No, so I was not. That was the summer before I started college. But I would say from like the aftermath of that story has been like such a like pivotal component of Northwestern athletics since. So like I covered a lot of like the beginning of David Braun's coaching tenure and like when he did so well as the interim coach and people were encouraging him to remove the tag. So like basically what happened after Fitz is what we focused on, and then also like he had a big lawsuit against the school. Um so and against the student paper. So pretty interesting to see how that's played out.
Indeed. Well, look for Audrey. She'll be out in the field covering, um, you know, whatever things come our way during the summer, whether that be NASCAR, maybe get her out to Colonial Downs, and I guess shoot us a story pitch if you've got somewhere you think she should be. Thanks, Audrey. Do you have
Great.
anything else you want to tell our beautiful listeners?
No, not that I can think of. Just excited to be here.
All right. We're excited to have you. Thanks so much.
Oh, Zach's telling me to tell you guys that I have a little bit of like A10 basketball background. I grew up going to St. Bonaventure basketball games with my dad. Which you'd think, someone coming from Philly, coming from Chicago, I'd be wanting to talk about LaSalle and St. Joe's and Loyola, but actually I grew up a big St. Bonaventure fan. So
Plot twist.
yeah. Yeah, but I love it up there. I was telling Zach a little bit. I saw a bunch of games in Olean. Love Mark Schmidt. Very excited that Woj is there now. So that's my
Cool.
little A10 connection also.
There you go. I was talking A10. And we're back. Welcome back to the RTD Sports Podcast. We're joined by a very special guest today. It's our managing editor, Paul Whelan. Him and Zach are going to tell us, hopefully, a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't already know about U.S. men's national team and the World Cup. I think now that the U.S. is advanced officially to the knockout stage, many casuals like myself are going to start to get World Cup fever. So, Paul, thanks for joining us. And
yeah, absolutely.
How long have you been with the RTD, Paul?
I've been here since 2000, so 26 years.
Right on. Paul and Zach are, and our copy editor Owen, who actually was at the match, I think, against Australia, are resident soccer or football gurus in the office. So, I'll start off with some questions from sort of a casual point of view, but you guys feel free to get as deep as you'd like. First, I'll start off pretty basic. What's the lead here in the World Cup so far? I feel like maybe the U.S.'s success is up there with any other news story so far.
Yeah, I think it's that the U.S. and Mexico have already advanced to the knockout rounds, right? And you've got your two hosts. From an American perspective, I think a lot of it has been the global melting pot that is the World Cup too. Like, Paul, have you enjoyed that as much as I have? The German fan, Freddie, like Matt, we've talked about that. Europeans going to Buc-ee's and being wowed by that, and all of the touring the U.S., them being impressed with the stadiums and everything. The Mexico fan that's a duck that's wearing the Mexico jersey in Mexico City, just like all those little things have been really fun to watch.
That is the big draw for me of the World Cup. That is a global event, and it just introduces you to different cultures around the world, and you just see that every country has just soccer fanatics.
And Paul, we were excuse me, I'm sorry, talking about this a little bit earlier. You follow the US men's national team incredibly closely. So in the years, around a World Cup schedule, you're watching Juventus matches to watch Weston
Right.
McKennie, and you're watching AC Milan matches to watch Christian Pulisic. So this is very much an around the calendar thing for you, that you're zoned in on different clubs because they have US men's national team players on them.
Yeah, I mean, I became a fan really in '94. Back then, Kobe Jones to me was just a superstar. Flying up the wing with those dreads, he was so cool. And then 2002, when we made that deep run in Korea, Japan, Landon Donovan, Brian McBride, those guys that just reignited my passion for the team. And ever since then, I've watched every single U.S. men's team's game. And then during this last two World Cup cycles, with the growth of soccer popularity in this country, basically every streaming service has one of the top leagues available. So if you have those services, you can watch every single Serie A, which is the Italian league, every single match that they play there, every single Premier League game you can watch on Peacock, every single like Dutch game you can watch on ESPN Plus. So now more than ever, you can be an international fan and follow American players who are having great success overseas. So yeah, I've been dialed in and very excited about this team because it is by far the most talented team we've ever had.
I've seen a bunch of "Has America finally figured out the whole soccer or football thing" posts. And it does seem like there's been kind of a cultural turn around the sport in the United States that goes back years, but that we're kind of seeing flourish with this World Cup and with this national team so far. I saw a post the other day of a dad talking about his kid playing in the backyard, and that he'd always pretend to be, Major League Baseball players or NFL players, and now he's in the backyard kicking a ball, into a goal and saying he's Flo Balogun. And it's like
Yeah,
a 7 or 8 year old. And so the generational impact of interest in this country and this World Cup is something that we'll see for generations to come. And that's been really cool to see.
absolutely. I mean, American sports fans love winners, and unfortunately, the U.S. men's team has underperformed in the World Cup in the past. Um, and I think this run is going to continue. Not only are they going to win the group, but I think they're going to win a couple knockout games. And I think that'll just propel the sport even further.
We talked about that earlier, that their potential route to a semifinal looks about as good as you could wish for right now. And there's still a lot of stipulations with teams that could, some really strong countries that could finish third in their group, and you could run into a Belgium or something like that. But it does look like the draw is really going to shake out in their favor.
Yeah. I mean, and we've got the team to make the run. Not only so, like in the past, we've had players who were playing over leagues like in the Premier League or in the Dutch league, but now we've got players who are stars in those league. I mean, Christian Pulisic is a legit star with AC Milan, probably the most storied club in Italian football. Weston McKennie is an underrated star with Juventus, who is also one of the best clubs in Italy. I mean, and beyond that, what we've never had before and what you need to make a big run in a tournament like this is we've got depth. We've got someone like Brendan Aronson who starts for a Premier League side, Leeds United, who had like a great run of games like to help Leeds stay in the Premier League, and he's on the bench. He hasn't even played a minute yet. And so he's completely fully rested, and he's going to want to come out and prove himself. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him against Turkey, but I mean, there's just so many talented players on the bench, so that if someone does get injured, like Chris Richards, God forbid, because he's our best center back, but there are other players like Mark McKenzie who could step up and fill that position.
Richards plays for Crystal Palace. Am I remembering that
Yep,
correctly? Yep.
yep,
And
and
Tyler Adams, I loved watching all year. I'm an Arsenal fan, and so I know the Premier League much better than I know the Bundesliga or Serie A, etc. But Bournemouth finished sixth. this year, I think, and qualified for Europe, and he was a huge piece of that team. And then Freeman, this young fullback that everyone's raving about, does he play in the Bundesliga?
No, he's in La Liga in Spain.
Okay,
He went to
Villarreal, right?
Villarreal
Yeah.
after he had one short year at Orlando City and immediately made the move up there. And I don't know if you saw in my article, he's the son of Antonio Freeman, who was a Hokie and went on to star in the NFL and play for the Packers. But he's only 21, and his rise just in the last 12 months has been incredible.
And he had the second goal in the 2-0 win over Australia. And I got some Arsenal flashbacks because we had a huge VAR review late in the Premier League season against West Ham where a goal was chalked off. And it was a similar like crowd pop and reaction to that when the official goes on the mic and says after review the player was not in an offside position, the goal counts. It was a wonderful atmosphere there. I'm going to be excited to ask Owen about that when he's back because I'm sure the stadium was nuts for that. And then the first goal is an own goal, but it's created by a great run from Balogun down the left wing, and he puts a really difficult ball into the box that the Australia defender doesn't know what to do with because there's someone, I think is it Pepe or Pepe who's behind him, and he feels like he needs to try and get a clearance in, and it ends up being an own goal. Balogun 2 straight man of the match performances for the US, and you were raving about him earlier that this is the kind of player up top that the US men's national team has really never had.
Right. I mean, all deference to people like Brian McBride or Josie Altidore, who were great and did play in the Premier League. Flo Balogun, the U.S. has never had a striker as accomplished as Flo Balogun. And to make a run in any tournament, you need a guy who can bang in goals. And so at Monaco, he's in the top league in France, and he's scoring double-digit goals, and he's done this for multiple seasons now. So he is a legit goal scorer. And what's even better is, say Flo Balogun gets injured, then you got Ricardo Pepe, who Pepe scored, I think, like 15 goals or something in the Dutch Eredivisie. I know I'm butchering that, but the
Eredivisie, something like that.
Yeah, the top Dutch league. And then Haji Wright, who's plays for Coventry City in the championship, double-digit goals for them. He's going to be playing in the Premier League next year. So we've got, not just guys who are maybe riding the bench in the Premier League. These are top scorers for their teams who are backups. So not only do we have a world-class striker, we've got backup. So we've never had that before as the men's national team.
And Flo Balogun, an awesome story, by the way. I've seen people sending out tweets over the past week about it's the butterfly effect is crazy because a couple of people on an airline decided that a woman was too pregnant to fly, and now the U.S. has a world-class striker. Flo Balogun could have played for either Nigeria or England, I believe, was eligible. Certainly could have played for England. I think he's eligible for the Nigerian national team too. But also with international soccer, you have to pick and you have to stick with that team the rest of the way. You can't bounce around. Once you make that commitment, that's your international team. And his dad is Nigerian, I think, and he was raised in London, but his parents were on a trip to New York when his mother was pregnant with him, and they were trying to board their flight back to London, and they told her that she was too pregnant to fly. So that's why he is eligible for the U.S. men's national team, because he was born in Brooklyn, even though he's very much English in terms of his upbringing, and Nigerian in terms of his heritage. But he came up through the Arsenal Academy and was scoring a bunch of goals for the younger age groups with Arsenal. And so to be able to have a player of that caliber that's, raised in an environment around a Premier League club and has grown up playing against such elite competition, just another indicator that this is, a class of U.S. men's national team that we haven't seen. And Mauricio Pochettino is a huge part of that. He looks like Russell Crowe. There's been a bunch of really fun jokes that the people saying that there are many Americans who think that Russell Crowe is managing the U.S. men's national team. What have you seen from him in terms of the transformation of this national team relative to what it was under Berhalter and Jurgen Klinsmann and what Pochettino has been able to do?
Well, I mean, I think Greg Berhalter deserves some credit for kind of assembling the main structure of this team. It was under his leadership that they convinced Flo Balogun to play for the U.S., or I don't know if convinced is the right word, but then also to get dual nationals people who could play for other countries like Serginho Dest, Anthony Robinson. So the core of the team was there. But what I love about Pochettino, and just a side note, Pochettino, I think, is the third highest paid coach at this World Cup. So the U.S. ponied up big bucks to get a big name coach. And so now we've got the talent and the coaching experience to make a big run. I think it's an important point. But what I saw from Poach, I watch all the U.S. soccer posts on YouTube and Instagram, and they showed some glimpses of his speeches, like after matches, and HBO had this U.S. Against the World TV series that I watched, and they showed some behind the scenes stuff. When they lost the semifinal of the U.S. Nations League last year to Panama, Poach just came out to the team in the locker room and was just pissed and just started crying. So he's like, I hate losing. And to see that passionate, response from a coach. And then there was this clip after the Senegal match. They gave up this late first half goal and he was spitting mad. He was pissed off that the defender lost his mark. And I feel like Berhalter was too much. He wanted to be everyone's friend, but Poach is just like, you have to believe, you have to do your job, and that's how we win. And so I feel like he's just the perfect guy to help us make a run.
And he said some really interesting stuff and some quotes that kind of went viral in that regard, right? That might have been lost in translation a little bit, but he essentially said, like, people raised in American sports culture relative to the big European leagues, I think he said, are too accepting of losing.
Yeah.
Which might have rubbed some people the wrong way, but what he means is that there's no promotion and relegation.
Right.
Is I think specifically what he was talking about. And so there's an element of complacency that sets in when you know you're not competing for a championship, because at the end of the day, what's the real difference between finishing 12th in your league or 30th, if you're in the NFL or something like that, because you don't drop down a division. But it really is different. And I love that element of following the Premier League and the major European leagues, that some of those late season games at the bottom of the table have an enormous amount of jeopardy, and they feel like playoff games because you're fighting for your life to stay in the league. And he said that they kind of had to overhaul the culture, like, of the U.S. men's national team, because you had a lot of players who, were raised in an American sports culture where there's not that difference. If you're not competing for a championship, then who really cares? Tanking is a huge issue, right? In major American sports leagues. Because if you're not competing for a championship, you might as well get the highest draft pick. Yeah. It happens in the NFL, right?
No.
I think it does.
I mean, you can tank in different ways.
For sure.
I would say at the player and coaching level, tanking does not happen in the NFL as much as like the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA is certainly the poster child for it being an issue, but it does feel like every year at the end of the NFL season, we're having those conversations about the Jets and the Raiders, and do they really want to win this game, and all of that. So
I mean,
not
we
the
have the
same as it is in the
conversations,
NBA.
but
Yeah, promotion and
yeah.
relegation certainly introduces another element of jeopardy for the worst teams in the league. And it seemed like Poch felt like that was something that he needed to change.
But also, coming from Argentina, he's Argentinian. That's a culture where they live or die for soccer. There's if you lose a very important match, you may not want to go back to your country. I mean, that's what he wanted to instill in these players. And I love his quote recently. I think it was Berhalter, not the coach, but the son, who's the midfielder for the current team, said something about that. Poach behind closed doors said, "You're American. We don't take any, I'll say crap just for not swearing, but Americans don't take any crap." And so that's the type of thing these young players need to hear to believe in themselves, believe that they can go out and beat a France, beat a Spain. So I love him, but I do want to say, we've won 2 games against 2 teams we should have beaten. We haven't really done anything yet, but I do believe, again, I'm a fan, but I think realistically we have a chance to pull off an upset this year, and I can't wait.
One question I was going to ask you guys, and maybe the whole culture discussion is a big reason why, but why do we struggle so much in qualifying? Like we like if we weren't a host nation, we would not have qualified, right? Is it the complacency you guys are talking about?
It's actually really complicated.
Oh.
So I mean, qualifying in CONCACAF
Mhm.
is hard. I mean, you you don't always get your players released from their European teams. So sometimes you field a team of maybe lesser MLS players, players still trying to prove themselves. And even when you do get your best players, sometimes the field conditions aren't that great. And so you have a player who's used to playing on pristine, like uh, pitches, pristine fields where the ball just zips around. Suddenly there's like 2 inches of grass out there and you're trying to complete passes. And, uh, and then the crowds are like incredibly against you and they're like throwing, batteries and cups and stuff. And so it's qualifying in CONCACAF is hard. Not to, I mean, the U.S. should qualify every year. We're that good, but it it it's not a given. So
And
that's part of the
qualifying
reason.
That's true
Go
throughout
ahead.
the world, right? I mean, it's probably most
Right.
difficult in Europe, but like Italy's not in the World Cup this year. Chile's not in the World Cup this year. Like those are,
Good point.
teams that have put together countries that have put together great teams in the past who didn't qualify. Um, and so even though they've expanded it, it is still incredibly difficult. And to Paul's point, I think a lot of the time you're going up against a country that soccer is so central to their identity compared to what it is to the US, that there's a different level of jeopardy and care for those players. And what was it, Paul? Was it the Trinidad and Tobago match a couple of years ago that the field conditions really did go viral and it was a pretty terrible pitch that they were playing on?
Yeah, but the U.S. shouldn't have been in that position, to be
Yeah.
honest. If you go back and look at the qualification for that year, there were games that they should have won on home soil. Part of the problem also in America is that the U.S. will play a game in our country, and the the opposite fans, the opposing fans, might be the dominant voice in the stadium.
Sure.
Uh, so, I mean, I think that can affect how a team plays.
And they likely would have qualified this year even without being the host, but it does obviously automatic qualification when you are the host, and so it made it easier this year. And the
Yeah,
and the World Cup was expanded to 48 teams.
right.
All right.
Do we
And then
want to
last,
touch on anything
ahead.
holistically around the
Yeah,
other countries and the
sure. I guess holistically, what outside of the US um could what storyline can a casual like me glom onto and maybe impress someone at the sports bar by bringing it up?
I think Messi is going to show us once again why he is the best player in the world, even though he plays in MLS now. He is just incredible. You watched him the last couple games. He looks like he's doing nothing. He literally just stands there and walks around. But as soon as he gets the ball, just something turns on and he's immediately a threat.
Mhm.
So yeah, don't sleep on Argentina. Argentina could easily repeat, and it's been a long time since someone's repeated as World Cup champs.
Don't
yeah.
sleep. All right.
Only 8 teams have ever won the World Cup. So
Right.
there is like historically very much a consolidation toward the giants of the sport. Brazil, Germany, Italy, Argentina, France, Uruguay, England, and Spain, with Uruguay kind of being the outlier there. And they produced some wonderful players over the years. I remember like the Cavani and Luis Suarez front two. That was always tons of fun to watch when I was younger. But there's very much a power consolidation here. And so I think the big question at this juncture, relative to your point about you beating Paraguay, you beating Australia, you look good doing it, but those are two teams that you should beat. The real question is, can this U.S. men's national team, compete with a Brazil, with a Germany, with an Argentina, if you were to see them in a quarterfinal, or a semifinal? Paul, who have you been most impressed by so far? I thought England looked great against Croatia, especially in that second half. And it could be coming home is the buzz term that everyone uses with England winning the World Cup, which they haven't done since 1960. Am I right in that? England won title in 1966 is the only time they've ever won the World Cup. So I've been really impressed with them. I think that looks like a team fully capable of doing it. Anyone who's really turned your attention.
60-year anniversary.
And wouldn't it be fun if England did come to the U.S. and win the World Cup in the 250th anniversary of the revolution?
I'm skeptical of
destined.
England. I mean, I think England's great, but I think Spain is just not Spain. I'm sorry, France. Spain's a good team, but France is just like they could field 3 teams, and all 3 of those teams would be in the top 6 or 7 in the world. They just got incredible depth. I think what's impressed me is the unexpected Cape Verde, tying multiple times other teams that they were fully expected to lose to. That's been great. I've been very pleasantly surprised by Japan. I think Japan's going to make a run because they've got some really talented players. They got this guy Kubo who plays in the Spanish La Liga, but they play really well as a unit. Like they're always in position. They're just tactically sound. I think they're going to do really well.
Their fans have been really fun too. The Hirochika Nagakaki guy who did the interviews, like, I don't speak English, but I am excited.
Excited
after the Netherlands match. That was awesome. But yeah, I was gonna say, don't they have a Shinji Kagawa has played at Dortmund and Manchester United. Or I'm looking at some of their historical guys here. So they've had players and some of the biggest. Oh yeah, that's who I was looking for. Isn't it Endo who plays for Liverpool? They have a handful of players in the top leagues in the world. They've been a lot of fun to watch. Germany had a late winner against the Ivory Coast the other day on Saturday. That was probably one of the best matches of the tournament so far after they went down 1-0 and then pulled it back and won 2-1. To your point, that Cape Verde result against Spain and then Curacao getting a point against Ecuador too with a 0-0. Like, I think for a lot of casuals, they'll probably see a 0-0 scoreline and go, that must have been a terrible game. But I think those can be incredibly exciting when you've got nations of that stature who are celebrating like they've won the World Cup, when they get a 0-0 draw, and there's a lot of jeopardy and excitement in those games. So I've enjoyed a couple of those results.
Yeah, I think it's been a very exciting World Cup. And when we get to the knockout rounds, then you're really going to see heartbreak and, overwhelming joy.
Sounds great. Maybe I'll make an appearance at Gus's for the game against maybe Bosnia. Big thanks to Paul Whelan. We'll kick it back to ourselves now. That was World Cup and U.S. men's national team talk. Take care, Paul. And welcome back to the RTD Sports Podcast. Thanks to Paul Whelan. That was everything. Well, maybe not everything you need. I would say everything you need to know about World Cup and the U.S. men's national team. Maybe not everything there is to know. Paul and Zach, I'm sure, could have gone on for hours and hours, but here we are. We got to get to quick hits. Here's what's trending. Brad Stevens and Billy Donovan have been trending all afternoon, which could only mean one thing. There's a big college basketball job open, and that's because Dusty May has agreed to terms to become the Dallas Mavericks next head coach. And it seems like folks are not, I guess the timing is surprising. I think he's the first college basketball coach to leave his post immediately after winning a national title, which not a surprising. They're the first coach to take a new job after winning a national title. That's obviously not too surprising there, given not too many coaches are fired after winning a title. And usually if they win a title, it means they have a good team and want to stay. But there he goes. And so Michigan's looking for their next guy. But yeah, like I said, for some reason, people aren't all that surprised. I think there was some hints along the way that this might happen.
Did you know Dusty May is 0-2 against James Madison University basketball?
I did not know that.
Fun fact of the day. Fun fact of the day.
Did you have a read on this, Zach, or is this kind of like, just
I did
another
not.
Yeah, go ahead.
As I imagine, the Mavericks gave him a great deal of money. And I admired a lot about how he ran that Michigan program. I think a lot of people around the country did. In managing the transients of modern college basketball. And I think they have 3 guys, I want to say, who are pretty high on the NBA draft board. I'm gonna pull up their names. Real quick. And so I think you had a bit of an exodus of some of the top talent to help them win a national championship, and maybe he just felt the time was right to turn the page to the next professional chapter. And it's always nice to go out on top. But I'm sure Michigan, with the resources that they have, will be well equipped to go out and get a big name. The really difficult element of it is the timing here because of the transfer portal, right? In that when you're going to bring a new coach in, and they're going to be really on the back heel in terms of trying to put together a roster for this upcoming season. So you'd probably expect significant regression from Michigan just for next season, and that coach is going to have a difficult task at hand. And some of those players on that roster have some difficult decisions to make now because obviously we're through transfer portal season. And so eh, I wonder what those conversations were between him and current players, because I'm sure if you're some of those guys who just helped them win a national championship, you still have eligibility and you thought he was coming back, you're frustrated right now because you're in a tough spot.
Indeed. And there's some conspiratorial discourse out there. Surprise. The internet and, X and uh, those types of places have some conspiratorial comment, if you know where to look. And some folks think that he's running away from, some allegations of, I don't know what, because there are no rules. So I'm not really buying that, given the wild, wild, wild west landscape that we currently reside in. I don't know what, you know, yeah, what would he be running from? I don't know. I think he was always looking toward the NBA. There was this Schefter had a quote from him during the tournament. Do you guys remember this? Where it seemed like out of nowhere, Schefter reported, Dusty May says he is not looking at any other college coaching job. And I thought that was really weird because he used, and I looked for like an hour today trying to find this quote, could not. But I remember he used quite a few qualifiers. So it's like, okay, so are you saying he is looking for another job, but okay, it's not a college job. So he's looking for an NBA job. Got it. So there were hints, I guess.
Adai, Mara, Morez Johnson, Yaxel Lindeborg, who are obviously all key cogs of that national championship run, are all projected in the 11 to 17, 18 range in the NBA draft. So you're, losing a lot of that roster. Elliot Cadeau was obviously a huge part of that championship run as well. So and Trey McKinney, who was the freshman who really impressed a lot of people, who made some big shots for them down the stretch of the NCAA tournament. Probably a couple of guys who are left in limbo right now.
Indeed. We'll move on to two-time U.S. Open champion Wyndham Clark. People hate this guy. I don't really understand why. I've listened to interviews with him. Seems like a nice enough guy. The 2 things or 3 things I can nail down is he won the U.S. Open that one year at LA Country Club when people hated the course because they thought it was too easy. So it was like Mickey Mouse U.S. Open, but now he won at Shinnecock. So I don't really know what I guess maybe they thought they lost that on him. But I don't. And then he beat up a locker, or maybe a couple lockers at Oakmont last year out of frustration. And I guess there's a Golf Digest article that ranks lockers, and Oakmont is toward the top of that list. So I'm not completely up to speed, admittedly, on golf locker room culture. I guess, but I guess lockers are thought highly of among certain people, or option three, maybe the gallery just wanted to see it come back, and and I guess the guy to do that at the beginning of the day, the thought was maybe Scotty Scheffler could make the comeback and can complete the career Grand Slam. But yeah, Wyndham Clark held on down the stretch, big birdie on 16, getting out of the bunker and extending his lead back to 2 strokes and giving himself some breathing room, because he did have a bogey. I believe he finished with a bogey on 18 to seal the deal. So if he didn't get up and down for birdie on 16, he's looking at a playoff with Sam Burns. But do you guys have any Wyndham Clark thoughts?
I admittedly just don't know so much about golf, but the fact that people would get mad over a locker is so funny to me. That's hilarious. I feel like that just describes golf.
It was a big story last year. He got mad and he punched a locker. But
I'll be
whatever.
honest, not a golf guy. Fun to play. I've never gotten super into watching it. I'm obviously, relative to our conversation earlier, zoned in on the World Cup, and so I wouldn't take time away from that to watch the U.S. Open this past weekend. I did find that he turned down an invitation to play on the Live Golf Tour publicly a couple of years ago, so that's a upvote for me.
Yeah. It's a tour loyalist, but I guess the Oakmont locker supersedes PGA Tour loyalty. Or who knows? Maybe they just wanted to see it come back, because he did get out to an early seven stroke lead, I believe it was, or he shot 7 under or something like that. I'm butchering this. Yeah, he was 7 under after like 2 days, which is not the expectation for Shinnecock, and so he kind of. He did have to hold on at the end there, but he kind of coast is the wrong word, but as much as you can coast on a U.S. Open course, I guess you could call it coasting. But I thought it was an impressive weekend of golf from Wyndham Clark. Shinnecock, very tough course, and he ended, what was it, 4 under par, 3 under par?
Google tells me Wyndham Clark's unpopularity among some golf fans stems from a mix of high-profile controversies, perceived poor sportsmanship, and a reputation for, quote, villain behavior that has followed him through multiple tournaments. There's the locker room incident, 2025 PGA Championship incident. He was seen throwing a club after a bad tee shot. It added to a kind of bad boy image.
Well, that's right. He damaged the T-Mobile sign.
So it seems like, he argued over a ball in the mud at the 2026 Byron Nelson, called it ridiculous and hateable, and so the perception seems to be lacks patience and sportsmanship, and that he's kind of a hot rod and prone to
He's one of us.
That's how I get when I play mini golf with my family.
One of us. One of us.
Oh, well.
That's a shame.
I don't blame him. Maggie and I still argue about who won when we played at Hotel Green. So,
hey, he didn't go to Live. So, Savannah, the Caps have extended their head coach.
Yeah, thank God.
You're a Carberry guy.
I am a Carberry girl. Yeah. Big fan of his.
In true classic NHL fashion, the details of the contract are vague. He received a multi-year extension, and that's all I could find.
That's hockey for you.
Yeah.
We should FOIA them. I know that's not how it works.
But yeah, FOIA the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, you think that's a good move?
I like Carberry. Yeah, I like Carberry. I think the Caps have gone through several coaches during Ovechkin's tenure. And I think that when a coach can kind of connect and work with Ovi, that's always a pro. That hasn't necessarily always been how the Caps coaches have been. And I think I love how young Carberry is too. You got to be young to win in this league. And the Caps historically, especially in the 2010s, are a very old team. They had a lot of vets on there. They didn't have a lot of rookies on there. So they would get beaten to cup finals partially because of speed. And Carberry comes in, he brings a young system, brings young blood in. The Caps are getting a lot of kids up from the Bears right now, the Hershey Bears, and from the American Hockey League, their AHL minor league team. So I like the move. I like Carberry every single time I've seen him or seen anyone interview him. He's a good guy, win or loss. So I'm a big fan.
Cool. Yeah, I think if you get a good young coach in there, it makes sense to hang on to him as long as you can and keep that continuity within the organization. I think that makes sense. Staying on hockey, you have thoughts, Savannah, on the NHL Hall of Fame class of 2026. Please go off.
Gotten so many texts today in the last hour that's like, oh, Savannah, it's the worst day of your life. Carey Price is in the Hall of Fame. And
who's Carey Price?
Carey Price is the former goalie for the Montreal Canadiens and technically the San Jose Sharks because of contracts, but he never played for San Jose. I think this is a really unpopular opinion, so here we go. I think he's pretty overrated. In his tenure, he's done a lot of stuff, okay? He's won a couple Vezinas, which is the trophy for the best goalie in the league, and he's won the Hart one time, which is league MVP. But you know what? When he was in his prime... But when you look past all that, in his prime, he never got the Canadiens to even a cup final. And the year the Canadiens were the 1 seed, in his big year, 2014, 2015, the Canadiens got dropped by the Lightning in the second round in a 4-2 series.
Is he the Mike Trout of the NHL?
I would say so. He can't, in the regular season, he might be just this amazing player, which even in the times I saw Carey Price play live, I never thought he was amazing. But he might just be this amazing guy, but in the playoffs, I don't think it really ever got him anywhere. The only time he was there in the conference final or in the cup final was in one of those COVID seasons where the Canadiens were in the
Mickey
Western
Mouse.
Conference. Oh yeah, it's one of the two. The Canadiens, so what they did that year was they took all the because the Canadian teams couldn't deal with the borders because of COVID restrictions. So They would keep all the Canadian teams in one division and they put them in the Western division. So they have won the Western Conference once because of the COVID division when that's just not where they play. So, and that was really, Price retired the year after. They never really did anything. And he had a Mickey Mouse season. So maybe if it was, the full series, I would respect it a little more, but I don't. And so I'm not a big fan of that, of him in general, but hey, I guess he's a Hall of Famer. What can I argue with a Hall of Famer?
Yeah. Etched in history forever. Legends
Mickey
never
Mouse
die.
Getting a lot of hate on today's podcast.
Oklahoma, UNC tonight. Winner take all for the College World Series Natty. Who you got?
Give me Tar Heels.
I don't know
Ooh,
why.
Give me the Sooners. Give me the Sooners. Sooners are the dogs here. Zach, you watched them knock off Georgia Tech with me here in the office a few weeks ago. They're tough. Usually it's their softball team usually it's their softball team that's doing everything, but I guess since their softball team couldn't get out of supers this year, that their baseball team had to step up.
I say UNC just because I saw them at the beginning of this NCAA tournament. They beat VCU 8-0 in that first game in the Chapel Hill regional. But yeah, exactly. I know that was their first game of the NCAA
that's
tournament.
Where VCU went.
Yeah, that's where VCU went. So, Boshamer Stadium was gorgeous. The guys, you should have seen this hospitality tent. I mean, we had a full spread, burgers, donuts, yogurt parfaits, coffee. It's lemonade and tea. It was in a tent outside Boshamer Stadium. They took care of the media down there. Shout out to everyone in Chapel Hill. That was a wonderful experience. VCU got a great win against Tennessee the next day. UNC ended up winning that regional, and so I've got a soft spot for the Tar Heels just because I saw them and I met some of them, the people who cover them, and so I'm thinking about them during this College World Series run. 2 freshmen are starting tonight, by the way, from the looks of it. Jackson Rose, who's a true freshman left-hander for UNC, and then Nick Wislowski, who's a true freshman right-hander for Oklahoma. So that's pretty cool. You got 2 freshmen going up against each other in a winner-take-all game 3. Ryan Lynch was the starter for UNC against VCU early on, and he was phenomenal that day. And I just appreciated and enjoyed how the Tar Heels carried themselves in the post-game pressers and everything. Seemed like a classy coaching staff and a bunch of dudes, so I've been rooting for them since then.
They have seemed like a wagon.
They're so young, both teams are. Like, I watched OU bounce Georgia, and man, OU just doesn't stop either. Like, Tar Heels are going to have to go to the both teams are going to have to go to the bullpen in this one tonight, I think.
No doubt. Such is the case in many elimination games. It's short leashes on the starters and whatever bullpen guy gets hot. All right. And then we are going to hit the home stretch here, trying out a new segment. It's called Touch Grass. We, the whole gang got outside this weekend. Some of us out of the reaches of cell phone towers. It was quite relaxing. Why don't you start off, Savannah?
So I went to, I've asked like my family what this exact town is, like maybe 100 times in my life, and no one has a real answer. But I'm claiming I went to Bowdoin, West Virginia this past weekend to one of my family, like my extended family has this cabin in literally the middle of the woods. There is no cell service for 30 minutes outside of it. And I went there for the weekend for what my family calls women's camp, which is when all the women in my family go to this cabin for a weekend. So I was there this weekend. It's like a loft-style sleeping situation. There was no cell service. They were all in bed, tucked away at 9 p.m., and I was just living on my own. Those are not my hours, if you know me. I went to sleep at like 1, and I just sat, no phone service at all. I read a lot on my Kindle this weekend. I colored, I played cards with like physical solitaire with myself. I was doing a word search in a physical book. I was completely off the grid. And it was kind of nice though. Sunday night I felt like I was playing catch up and was worried I missed something.
Then Zach, you want to tell us about your lovely weekend?
So I got out. So first of all, on Friday, Maggie and I went to the Great Mughals exhibit at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, which was really fun. It's about the Mughal Empire, which spanned much of India, modern day India, Pakistan, Afghanistan. It's the rotating exhibit in the bottom of the VMFA right now, and that was really fun. And then she went down to Cape Charles to go see her dad for Father's Day weekend. And I got out into the wilderness while staying in Richmond. If anyone knows me, I'm a huge James River Park system person. And it really is. I think we take it for granted sometimes. It's unique how much green space we have that's immediately accessible to the city of Richmond. Like that's pretty uncommon in metropolitan areas. And so I went on a big hike, North Bank Trail, up into Texas Beach, all the way up to Pump House. And then because droughts or draughts, depending on how you want to say it. We've had some discourse in the office today about pronunciation.
Who says drought?
People say drought.
The only one I've heard say it.
Some people say drought. It's a thing. I'm not saying drought. Obviously, more common. But
RTD
drought,
Sports Podcast at timesdispatch.com if you want to weigh in on drought versus drought.
Let us know in the comments.
Please let us know.
Because there's not a whole lot of rain these days. The river's very low. It's at 3.6 feet, or that's where it was sitting over the weekend, which anywhere below 4 feet is like much of it is traversable, and you can hop across the rocks and get out to islands in the middle of the river. So I rock hopped clean across the river from Pump House to Cooper's Island, which is right in front of the train bridge, and I settled for a little bit on a really gorgeous island in the middle of the river, right in front of the train bridge, where you can watch the sunset beneath the trestles of the iconic CSX-A line bridge that's on so much Richmond iconography. And I built a fire, guys. And I wasn't in the Boy Scouts or anything, and this was something that I hadn't crossed off of the, like Boy Scout bucket list.
What were your
And
tools?
so you guys should have seen me. I was hopping around an island in the middle of the river for about an hour, collecting kindling, and there was one like legit firewood log that someone had left there before, because it was kind of there was a fire pit set up. It's a popular island,
Yeah.
and so there was some logs to sit around in a circle, and some rocks arranged in a circle, and a couple of grates. So I gathered kindling, built a little bed of kindling under the log, got a couple of other big branches. I have a significant bruise like right above my knee because I tried to break a branch over my knee, and the branch won and I lost. So, but we were still able to burn it. We just put it, burn the middle of it, and it was kind of draping over the fire. And I had a 6-pack box. We were enjoying some beverages out on the river, and I pulled cardboard off of it, and we lit that on fire, and we put that under the kindling, and that's what got us started. And then I blew on it and provided oxygen to the fire for a while to get it to flame up and everything, and eventually it caught, and we had a whole fire out there while we were watching the sunset, so it was fun. And then I hopped the rest of the way across to Cooper's Island and watched the rest of the sunset there, and then got onto the Buttermilk Trail and hiked it all the way back to Reedy Creek, to the main line, down to Belle Isle, and then back across to downtown, which is about a 10-mile hike, all things considered, considering the steps across the river, and it was beautiful. Matt, you guys had a gorgeous trip, it looked like.
Yeah, we got out to the western part of Virginia, near Catawba and Newcastle. We stayed at a campground called The Pines on Barbers Creek Road, and it's free. It's nice little campground. It seems like the Forest Service comes by and tidies it up every once in a while. They got trash receptacles, a vault toilet, spacious sites, some double sites if you want to take a group there. And that was our home base. We boarded the dogs in Catawba at Catawba Kennel. We're very lovely people. And we hiked the McAfee's Knob Trail on the Appalachian Trail, and Tinker Cliffs on is it Andy Payne Trail? Let me look this up real quick. It's like Thomas Payne or Andy Payne.
I saw Keely's
Andy
Instagram
Lane.
post.
Yeah.
Nice.
The Andy Lane Trail. I guess this is probably the mainstream choice, but McAfee's Knob Trail was my favorite. Both lovely trails though. And yeah, something about sleeping on the ground and getting up at 5 a.m. every day recharged me. I don't know. Something I will say, we were I wouldn't say serenaded, but I don't even know what you'd call it. But we had the opportunity of listening to a whippoorwill, which is a nocturnal bird this is an AI overview, so I apologize if it's not completely correct, but this checks out based on what we listen to. Is a nocturnal insect-eating bird famous for its loud, repetitive song. It breeds in eastern North America, and it's highly camouflaged, and they roost on the ground. And they're known for their onomatopoeic whistle that sounds exactly like whippoorwill. And basically, it would call out a couple hundred times before we would go to bed, and then a couple hundred times right as the sun was coming up. So it was not pleasant, but an effective alarm clock nevertheless. But that was my weekend. I think, I'm getting to know this lovely state more and more each weekend, and we will be back to the Appalachian Trail. There's still some hikes that we'd like to do. I think Dragon Tooth is another popular one that we want to do.
I've heard great things about it. That one's also down in Southwest Virginia, right?
Yeah. That was close to McAfee's Knob. It was on the same highway.
Yeah, okay. So Roanoke area. I've always wanted to do Devil's Bathtub too. Which is it's a gorgeous swimming pool that's way down in Southwest Virginia. It's like a couple hours past Roanoke, like about as far as you can
toward
get
Bristol.
West in Virginia. And there's some gorgeous hiking options up there. We are very lucky to live in a state with so many wonderful outdooring options. And the Saturday was the last day of spring, right? And Sunday was the first day of summer, right? So a perfect weekend for us to touch some grass.
Indeed. Yeah. If you made it this far in the podcast, feel free to comment, but then get out of the comments and go touch some grass. I think we could all benefit as a society of getting outside more. I was not to lecture y'all, but I was kind of disappointed or not disappointed at all, actually. Pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless at how few hikers there were on Sunday on McAfee's Knob Trail. It's a popular hike, perfect weather. Honestly expected it to be like shoulder to shoulder. Maybe that's just me coming from, Montana, going to places like Glacier, which is just jam-packed all summer. Maybe that's just not how the Appalachian Trail is. But I expected it to be like shoulder to shoulder people having to stop every 5 minutes. But it was nice and spacious, and saw a few people, but definitely expected to see more. So get out there. There's plenty of room still.
If you have any hiking pursuits or outdoor activities that are particularly near and dear to your heart, please share them with us in the comments, and we'll
Shout
start
them
us.
out.
Yeah,
or maybe
shout
we
'em
won't
out.
shout them out. Maybe we'll keep them a secret, but
Maybe we'll do them ourselves.
Let us in
Yeah.
on your secrets. Tell us
Yeah.
your secrets. Yes. Tell us all of your secrets. rtdsports@timesdispatch.com. Email us your secrets.
Let us know why you hate Wyndham Clark.
Yeah. Let us know anything.
Literally anything.
Literally. And, that'll do it. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Catch us every Monday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and have a great week. Take care.